once again. Welcome to Invisible M Podcast. A podcast about unseen forces shaping life.
Hearts beating wild, life without a care.
Midlife pivots, relationships, real stories, raw truth, plus sports and entertainment insights.
So zest is flowing, feel it in your soul.
Before we move into today's main conversation, we begin with a moment that has captured attention across the continents. You know what I mean. Football. Football once again reminded us how sports reflect emotions, identity, and power. The recent clash between Senegal and Morocco did more than just decide a winner. It sparked debate, pride, and reflection for beyond the pitch. Senegal emerged victorious in a tense encounter against host nation Morocco, securing a narrow win after extra time. It was a match filled with intensity, pressure, and controversy. Decisions were questioned. Tempers flared. Emotions ran high on both sides. For Senegal, it was a moment of triumph and resilience. For Morocco, it was heartbreak mixed with frustration, especially in front of a home crowd that expected glory. But beyond the scoreline, this match tells a wider story. It speaks of preparation, mental strength, and how margins decide outcomes at the highest level. It also reminds us how systems, refereeing standards, and tournaments organizations can influence results just as much as talent does. Football mirrors life in many ways, if you ask me. Success often comes not from dominance alone, but also from discipline, structure, and the ability to endure pressure. Now, before we move into today's podcast, let me just tell you about this. If you are in a colder environment at the moment, the cold is having a grip on a lot of us, then this flannel fleece-lined jacket for men keeps you warm and comfortable during long winter months. Maybe from a soft 70% polyester and 30% blend, it feels cozy and not scratchy at all. This Sherpa lining covers the entire jacket, including the sleeves, which provides warmth without bulk. It features one chest pocket, two side pockets, and a stylized chest. What am I saying? If you're looking for a jacket with these qualities, with a hood that is fitted with a steady drawstring for easy wear, then this classic buffalo plaid design makes it ideal for layering in autumn and winter. Perfect for outdoor work, daily wear, or as a thoughtful gift for somebody. It is machine washable, don't worry about that, and it is easy to take care of it. Check the size chart before ordering on Amazon. I'll put the link in the comment section after this podcast. Now, let's go back. With that reflection in mind, we now can shift from the pitch of football to policy, from sports to strategy, as we move into today's main episode. So this is season 2, episode 1. And yeah, we're talking about rebuilding stuff. We're also talking about how to import things from China. But today we're just going to talk about a story that I found on Invisible M. And it was talking about rebuilding Ghana through absolute cost advantage. Invisible M, is all about seeing what others overlook. It is about building quietly and deliberately. It is about thinking long-term while acting in the present. So today's episode is one of the most important conversations that we can have about the country Ghana. Ghana is in West Africa. So Ghana is always described as a country with potential. We hear this phrase repeatedly by politicians, investors, and analysts. Yet potential alone, I feel, does not create prosperity. Direction does. For decades, Ghana has tried to rebuild itself by looking outward. We looked at Europe, we looked at Asia, we looked at industrial giants and asked how we could become the same. But what if that question was wrong from the beginning? What if Ghana's future does not depend on copying what others have done, but understanding itself? This episode is based on the Invisible M article titled Rebuilding Ghana Through Absolute Cost Advantage and Not Starting Over. It challenges a popular belief that Ghana must build everything locally, well, for the most part, from perhaps scratch in order to develop. But instead, it kind of proposes a more strategic and realistic path. That path begins with understanding absolute cost advantage. So, first, absolute cost advantage is not that complicated. In fact, it is simply producing something at a lower cost and also with fewer resources than others would. If one country can grow cocoa more efficiently than any other, then that country has an absolute cost advantage in cocoa. If another country can manufacture electronics faster and cheaper, then that country has an absolute cost advantage in manufacturing. Oftentimes, the mistake many developing countries make is assuming that national pride requires doing everything locally. However, economic strength, if you ask me, does not come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things well. This is where I believe Ghana must pause and rethink its approach, maybe, just maybe. But of course, this is just an opinion and just for conversational purposes only, by the way. And the other day I was thinking, I was like, what are some dangers of starting everything from scratch when people have already kind of mastered it and produced it cheaply? Now, there's a popular idea that at the moment, a lot of Ghanaians, not all, but some kind of think that perhaps we could manufacture everything manually or locally. For example, cars, phones, machines, electronics, you name it. This idea to me sounds fantastic. It is patriotic. But then patriotism without strategy perhaps may lead to maybe waste. Manufacturing at scale requires decades of infrastructure, supply chains, energy stability, and technological depth. Countries like, let's say, China, because that's what the article used most. So yeah, countries like China did not achieve this overnight. They spent more than 40 years refining production systems. They invested heavily in skills, logistics, and efficiency. China today produces goods at a cost that most countries cannot match. This is an inevitable fact. That is not because others are lazy, no, but then it's because China mastered manufacturing as a system. So the real question becomes like this. Why should Ghana spend scarce capital trying to outcompete a system that already dominates globally? It is not a bad idea, trust me. It is not a bad idea at all. But, well, China is not a model to copy blindly. China is a lesson in focus, if you ask me. The country, China, identified manufacturing as its core advantage. It organized labor around production. It built ports, roads, and factories to support exports. It accepted low margins initially in exchange for skill and learning. Ghana does not need to replicate this path. It can, but I'm just saying that it does not need to replicate that. Ghana needs to recognize that this path already exists. So instead of competing, not really competing, I won't use the word competing because everybody can try what they can. But I feel like Ghana can rather collaborate with China more. Of course, there is some sort of collaboration, but we could collaborate strategically. Instead of rebuilding what already works elsewhere, Ghana can actually specialize in what others cannot easily replicate. To me, that is not weakness. It is intelligence. Ghana as a whole has strengths that often is undervalued. Ghana has fertile land. Ghana has mineral resources. Ghana has strategic geographic access to West Africa. Ghana has political stability that is relative to its region. Ghana has a young and adaptable population. Now, these factors matter a lot. While Ghana may not beat China in electronics, it can maybe dominate in value-added agriculture. It can dominate in maybe raw material processing, not just the raw material, but then processing as well. It can dominate in cultural exports. It can dominate in regional logistics. So, well, one of Ghana's greatest advantages is its youth. A youth population literally means energy. It means adaptability. It means speed of learning. But youth without structure kind of becomes a bit frustrating. Now, the Invisible M article that I read makes it clear that Ghana must channel its youth into productive sectors that align with absolute cost advantage. Training young people to assemble imported components, training them to process agricultural products, training them to manage logistics and trade. Now, there are realistic pathways, okay? They do not require reinventing the whole wheel. That is not to say if you can, you shouldn't. You can. But all I'm just saying is if someone has already mastered it and it's cheaper to get the same thing, and looking at the long term, it's not going to end anytime soon, why not focus on other things and then partner with the one who has mastered what you're looking for so you can also give them what they're looking for. That's all I'm saying. So if you ask me, I wouldn't say it's not the best to train the youth for relevant things, but all I'm saying is at this then and age, the world is still moving on. We're in 2026, so it's better to train the youth for relevance rather than symbolism. Now, let's say many people, including me, used to think important things means a failure. It means you can't produce it, yet you do have the raw materials, but then you still have to import from somewhere else. But I've realized that trade is not surrender. It is not failure. Trade is actually strategy. Every successful economy imports something. Even China itself imports things. They do import materials. They do import energy. And so if Ghana should rather import machinery from China instead of manufacturing the machine, well, it is not a loss. It is what I call an optimization. In terms of machine, let me just chip this in. If you are into tafting as a hobby, as an enthusiast, as a DIY enthusiast, then perhaps you could actually check out this best gear rack tafting gun with a carpet trim or a kit that comes complete. You don't have to look elsewhere for other accoutrement to start your tafting project. You don't even need anything else apart from the kit that you have. You can get this on Amazon. I'm going to leave the link in this comment section after the podcast So don't worry at all. I've got you if you're looking forward to having your tufting project. If you want to make designs, you want to design rugs, you want to go into tapestry. Literally, this is a complete set that is beginner friendly. So it makes your tufting project really, really, really awesome. Whether you want to create anything, maybe something really simple to hang or design your own living room with lots of different self-made design, all you need to do is to get this tufting gun and get going. One thing about this tufting gun is the fact that it does have different switch modes, like the cut, loop, pile mode, so you can change and do your projects. Now let's go back to where we were. Now, where were we? We were talking about the fact that imported machines from, example, China is not a loss, but rather what? An optimization. So when Ghana imports what others produce efficiently and focuses on what it produces best, the overall economy becomes stronger. Resources are allocated wisely, capital is preserved, and time is saved. Time is of essence. If you ask me, this is how modern economies function. I don't know if you also notice this, that there has been this myth about total self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency sounds really nice, it sounds attractive, but total sufficiency, if you ask me, is a total myth. No country, I repeat, no country is fully self-sufficient. Not the United States, not China, not Germany, not the UK, not Ghana, you name it. Economic strength comes from interdependence with an advantage. It comes from knowing what to produce, what to buy, and what to trade. So, I'm not saying Ghana should completely abandon the emotional attachment of doing everything locally. But all I'm saying is emotions does not build economies. It is systems that does. Instead of standing outside global trade, perhaps Ghana could position itself inside it, processing cocoa locally before export. In this case, if we do not have the necessary accoutrement to process the cocoa, then the country that is excellent at producing those machines, at producing the end product of cocoa, should be kind of encouraged to come to Ghana to plant near the raw material. Refining minerals before shipment, I think that is also on the agenda. And the process of refining, if we are not capable of producing what it takes to refine, then the country that does the refining can be negotiated with to position some of their plant in Ghana, where the raw material is. Assembling products using imported components, that sounds super awesome. Serving as a logistic hub for West Africa or even the whole of Africa is super duper awesome. So these are not small ambitions, mind you. They are strategic ones. When I read the article emphasizes that Ghana should not isolate itself from existing global systems. It rather should integrate intelligently. With this approach, it reduces risk, it increases speed, it improves competitiveness. Policies perhaps must reflect reality. Maybe governments often do announce grand industrial plans, but then we also have to consider the cost structure. Factories are built without supply chains. Factories or projects are launched without markets. So it kind of asks a hard question here. Can we do this cheaper than others? Can we do this better than others? Well, if not, should we even do it at all? Well, let's talk about something here. National pride is super awesome. It feels good to know that you belong to one nation. But we shouldn't allow it to block national progress. These are two different things. It is nice to say made in Ghana, 100% made in Ghana. But at the same time, that should not block the realistic progress that we're all looking for. I mean, to be honest, there is no shame in bringing in what others make better than you. There is no shame in specializing. The shame, if you ask me, is rather in wasting public funds on inefficient projects and later abandoning them. We've experienced that for decades now. The shame is rather in ignoring economic logic. Ghana's future actually lies in humility combined with confidence. Personally, I do see that in the current president of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. I mean, humility is to accept global realities. Confidence to build on genuine strengths. That's all I'm saying. The global economy is changing. Supply chains are fragmenting. Trade routes are shifting. New alliances are forming. So if you ask me, Ghana has an opportunity to position itself wisely or strategically. But then opportunity without strategy is sort of fleeting. Even I think the Bible in James 4 something mentions something like this. Rather, if we focus on absolute cost advantage, Ghana can move faster. It can avoid costly experiments and it can create jobs that are sustainable. Look at Singapore. Singapore is quite a small country. I've personally been there a couple of times. It's a country where you can literally, in fact, run or go through the whole place in one day. Not much resources, but they do have the sea and they capitalized on that. Sea transport, they did that. So yeah, as you listen to this episode, kindly ask yourself this. Are we chasing development as an image or as a process? Rebuilding Ghana is perhaps not about starting all over. It is about starting smarter. I think Ghana is already on that path, really. It is about recognizing what already exists globally and then using it. It is about identifying what Ghana does best and expanding it. It is also about trade, cooperation, and strategic focus. Do you know what? Let me tell you how fast the world is moving. So in China, they have advanced in construction so much that if you want a four bedroom with maybe 1 or 2 stories, they can build that with the same quality of things and more modern facilities in the space of 45 minutes to 1 hour. That's how advanced they are. Now they could move a whole train station. Do you know what a train station is? I'm sure you do. A train station that comes with all these lines and all these wirings and all these, you name it, they are able to move a whole train station from the left to the right within the space of 3 hours. Not only that, let me also bust your bubble here. Recently, there has been this one building which is about 150 years old. Do you know China was able to move this building from one location to another in the space of forget the time they moved it. But the thing is, they moved this building from one location to another without a single scratch. That's how advanced they are. And these days, you can even ship a whole house. So literally, they can build. They have all the skeletons. You just give them your design. They build, they ship, you assemble the house with the same quality at a cheaper price. They have the machines. So, if you ask me right now, rebuilding Ghana is not only about starting all over. It's about continuing in a smart way to your advantage. It's about, like I said before, recognizing what is there globally and then also using it. The Invisible Lamb article reminds us that development is not a race of you name it, but then it is a discipline of choices. So where do we begin from? where do we begin from? In the next episode of The Invisible M, perhaps we would move from theory to practice. We would discuss how individuals and businesses can import goods from China to Ghana effectively and cheaper. And also, we will explore how to ensure quality before shipping. We will also examine how Ghana can export to China and exactly what to export. And most importantly, we will talk about what Ghana can export that China actually really needs. That conversation will be practical, it will be grounded, and it will connect directly to everything we discussed today. Until then, thank you so much for listening. This is Invisible M Podcast. This has been really awesome. Think quietly, build strategically. Adios. Bye-bye for now.